from now on, we are going to switch off our cameras for technology's sake. So we make sure that everything goes smoothly, but we will be here anyway for you. So we will take you through this new magazine, and this time is about how to make your menus more nutritionally balanced and sustainable. So the edition focuses on two of the most challenging issues that humanity is facing today. How to provide balanced nutrition for a world population that continues to grow. And secondly, how to feed all those people in a way that's sustainable for the planetary health diet. So let me share my screen. And let's just, okay, perfect. So for the next 30 minutes, Rohini and myself, we will take you through the content of the new magazine. And at the end of the session, we will run a Q&A session all together. So don't hesitate to type your questions in the question box. Here, there's an appetizer of the full magazine and also of the presentation that we've prepared for you today. As in every edition, we start with relevant insights and then we deep dive into the topic. Finally, we move from theory to practice, and in this case, we land in concrete actions for the out-of-home industry. So we will turn diets into menus, and we will connect nutrition and sustainability. So let's get started. It's easy to think that your guests come for taste and for a nice experience, but health and sustainability are also increasingly strong motivations for consumers when dining out. Some of this is due to personal interest, but it's also driven by the necessity as we look for ways to feed the rapidly expanding world population with the limited resources that we have on Earth. So also, customers are also committed and setting their own targets. And lastly, new regulations are coming fast. So you may have heard about disposable cutlery, food waste, recycled content, packaging laws. So they all push the food service industry to adapt the way in which we do business today. It may be tempting, though, to put these challenges away for another day, but they are intimately connected and both require urgent action. So as food service operators, we all have the responsibility and the opportunity to become part of the solution by addressing these global shifts right now. Now I will hand over to Rohini, who will take you through the next slides.
Thank you, Anna. So before I move on to the next slide, everybody, I wanted to do a quick poll. So this will be our first poll. And if I can start, yeah. So by 2080, the human population is expected to rise from 8 billion to, and here I'm requesting everybody to choose one of the three options, 9.6 billion, 10 billion, or 10.4 billion.
Let's give a minute so everyone can answer.
Yeah, I think that's good. In fact, the majority of you have chosen the right answer. It is, in fact, 10.4 billion. So if we move on to the next slide.
Yes, give me a second. It moves. Now.
So yeah, consumers tend to underestimate the environmental impact of their own eating habits. And that's because probably they don't fully connect the dots and understand the link between diet and sustainability. So a lot of education is needed. On top of that, human population is expected to rise from 8 billion in 2022 to 10.4 billion by 2080, as the majority of you chose in the poll we just did. But the thing is that our planet's resources cannot expand beyond current capabilities to accommodate the needs for everyone who will be living here in this near future. With sustainability and health top of mind for many consumers, recent studies show that both are strong motivators for guests when choosing a restaurant. So let's deep dive into these topics. So here's some key consumer attitudes. And we see that 2/3 of EU consumers were open to changing their eating habits for environmental reasons. In the second circle, you can see that 44% of global consumers would pay 5% more for plant-based meals. And 80% of global consumers feel that plant-based meals improve perceptions of a menu. In addition, 57% of consumers in the US say that sustainability somewhat influences what they choose to eat away from home. And 60% of operators and consumers say it is everyone's responsibility to take care of the environment. So moving on to sustainability in food service, we can see that guests now expect our industry to be a part of the solution, with 69% of EU consumers believing that restaurants should focus more on sustainability. In the US, nearly 20% say that restaurants could do a lot more to reduce their environmental impact. Also in the US, more than 1 in 10 food service operators say that sustainability very heavily influences what they serve and what they purchase. Then 66% of UK consumers say they'd choose a restaurant for trying to serve sustainable food. And looking at the last circle on the screen, 69% of UK consumers are interested in how bars are tackling food waste. So this is clearly a very relevant issue because over a quarter of the 931 million tons of food waste generated in 2019 came from our food service industry. Meanwhile, human health problems are also pressurizing us to change. Data from World Health Organization tells us that worldwide, 1.9 billion adults are overweight or obese. Obesity nearly tripled between 1975 and 2016. Meanwhile, 462 million adults are underweight. So if you see the big picture, a great amount of population are suffering the consequences of poor diet, and at the same time, there is so much food waste. The first conclusion is that we live in a lack of balance. So Anna, what can we do?
So thanks, Rohini. How can we address these challenges as food service operators? So by putting health and sustainability on the menu, along with great taste, we can check the boxes that guests are looking for, all while helping to solve the generational challenge of feeding billions of people all over the planet. Globally, people are still eating animal-based products for much of their food. In fact, total consumption of animal-based food is expected to rise even by nearly 80% between 2006 and 2050. The good news is that many healthy choices are sustainable, and many sustainable foods can be compatible with a balanced diet too. So, as mentioned at the beginning of the session, this comes back to those two big questions. First, how can we provide enough nutrition for the 10 billion people in the years to come? And second, how can we increase food production without using more land and water or creating more harmful emissions? So as you may imagine, there is no simple answer. However, researchers have found one effective strategy that could help addressing both challenges at once. That is plant-based diets, of course, together with reduced food waste, adequate caloric intakes, and the usage of more efficient agricultural practices can be part of the solution. So let's take a look at how we define healthy and sustainable diets and where those two areas can overlap. So how should we define healthy diets? A healthy diet varies depending on a person's age, gender, lifestyle, physical activity, cultural context, dietary habits, and also along with which foods are locally available. According to the World Health Organization, this basically includes a variety of plant-based foods, 5 portions of fruit and veggies a day, limited intake of free sugars, choosing unsaturated fats rather saturated fats. So that means, for example, going to olive oil instead of using coconut or palm oil, and eating less than 5 grams of salt per day. On the other hand, a sustainable diet is not just about people's health, but it's also focused on the health of the planet we share. So according to the Food and Agriculture Organization, sustainable diets are protective and respectful of biodiversity and ecosystems, culturally acceptable, accessible, economically fair, and affordable, safe and healthy to eat, designed to optimize both natural and human resources, and of course, nutritionally adequate. So you may be wondering if it's possible to check all of those boxes at once. So the answer is yes. Actually, following the definitions of the WHO and the FAO, sustainable and healthy diets promote all dimensions of people's health and well-being. They have low environmental pressure and impact. They are accessible, affordable, safe, equitable, and culturally acceptable. This also means the following: eating a diverse range of plant foods, so tubers, whole grains, legumes, fruits and veggies, seeds, nuts, etc. Balancing the energy intake according to the energy needs. Limiting meat and fish, if eaten, of course, to small quantities, and same with dairy. They should be eaten in moderation. Limiting consumption of foods high in fat, sugar, or salt, and drinking water as the preferred beverage. So one example is the planetary health diet proposed by the Eat Lancet Commission. And according to it, this approach is optimal for preserving human health and the environment. In this case, whole grains, fruits, veggies, nuts, and legumes make up a greater portion of the diet, but also eggs, fish, dairy, and meat may still be eaten to achieve adequate nutrient intake. Ideally, all food should be sustainably produced or using regenerative practices within local ecosystems and the limited resources that we have on Earth. So now we are gonna get a bit more specific, and let's look at some facts and insights that can help you plan menus that are healthier and more sustainable starting today. But first, let's take a second poll because I would like to know about your thoughts. So Ayla, thanks. What food produce more greenhouse gas emissions? So what's your thought? Poultry, beef, or rice? We'll give you a couple of minutes for you to answer. Come on, last seconds. Well, I see that more or less half of the people answered, so maybe we can end the poll. Thank you, everyone. So here we can see that 17% of you think that poultry is the one producing more greenhouse gas emissions, 62% thinks it's beef, and 21% it's rice. So the correct answer was beef, and now we are gonna tell you why. So as a matter of an evidence, just so you know, diets high in plant protein and low in meat and dairy are associated with lower greenhouse gas emissions, according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So now let's compare the environmental pressures created by farming some common ingredients. Take a look at the greenhouse gas emissions that you have on the left-hand side, the land use, and the water use that you have on the right-hand side that you may use in your dishes. So in general, as we just said, plant-based foods have less impact on the environment, but of course it depends on every ingredient and it needs to be assessed like specifically. But for example, if we go back to beef, poultry, and rice, so you can see it properly in here, you see that beef has a carbon footprint of 99 kilograms per kilogram of food. It uses about 300 square meters of land, and the water usage raises up to 1,450 liters. So then if we go to poultry, this is about 10 kilograms of CO2, 12 square meters of land, and 660 liters of water. And lastly, regarding rice, you can see here that it has a 4.5 kilograms of CO2, 2.8 square meters of land, and it uses, on the other way around, lots of water. So it's 2,250 liters. So each type of ingredient has strengths and weaknesses when it comes to both health and sustainability. So let's take a look at some of them. Beef, for example, it is high in protein and it provides as well other important nutrients such as iron or zinc, and is very low in carbohydrates. However, it has no fiber and contains saturated fatty acids. In terms of sustainability, it's also an intensive user of land and water, as we've just seen, and produces very high greenhouse gas emissions. When it comes to poultry, it is also high in protein and low in carbohydrates, but it has no fiber. It's true that it uses less land and fresh water than cattle and produces less greenhouse gas emissions. When it comes to fish, it offers protein and omega-3s, among other nutrients, but wild catch is overexploited. And dairy, it can be a good source of protein, calcium, and vitamin D, but it contains as well saturated fatty acids. It uses quite a lot of land and water to be produced, and on top of that, it brings direct methane emissions from cattle. So adding more plant-based food to your menu and balancing the use of animal-derived products could help people achieve more balanced diets while also working toward the world's health and sustainability goals. To reduce your environmental impact even further, you can try to choose fruits, veggies, cereals, pulses that are locally sourced or in season whenever it's possible, of course. And also, meat, poultry, fish, and dairy alternatives are increasingly common and demanded by guests. So finally, offering multiple portion sizes is another way to help. It allows your customers to right-size their meal to not excess calories and reduce food waste, which is a very relevant fact because it is responsible for around 8% of all greenhouse gas emissions. I give the floor to Rohini now.
Thanks, Anna. So now it's time to translate these ideas into practice. What should you offer on your menu then? Every category has opportunities to enhance health and sustainability, often without taking anything away from the dining experience that guests like. In this section, we will also see some of the differences between a few common items prepared with animal-based and plant-based ingredients. So there are many ways to apply these changes to your menu. Starting with main dishes. So for main dishes, you could offer at least one vegetarian or vegan option. You could update popular dishes to let guests choose their own protein, including plant-based options. You could also shift towards smaller portions of meat and larger or more appealing sides and veggies on the plate. Looking at sides and salads, you could choose local, seasonal, and organic ingredients when possible. Include nuts and seeds to provide extra plant-based protein and boost nutrients. And for beverages, you could offer plant-based alternatives to milk and dairy products like pea, soy, oat, and almond options. And they're preferred choices for vegans and also for those with milk allergies or lactose intolerance. And in terms of your best sellers, adapt them into plant-based options. Evaluate your menu regularly and make updates as needed to keep your guests happy and prevent food from being left uneaten.
Okay, so now if we focus on nutrition, here you can see some nutritional facts from plant-based alternatives versus their meat or dairy analogs. So first, we will compare a plant-based cappuccino. In this case, it's made with pea milk and a whole course milk cappuccino. So as you can see here, the difference with regard to calories are not very significant, same protein level, but here the main difference is the content on saturated fatty acids. So as you can see here, and as we told you, milk contains saturated fatty acids. So in this case, the plant-based cappuccino contains a lower amount of those. Then if we move to the beef patty, and if we compare it to a vegan patty, in this case it's made from soy and wheat, we can see that the calories are again more or less the same. The saturated fatty acids are lower in the plant-based option and also the protein content, but it's still rich in protein product. So it's not a huge difference when it comes to burgers. And it's more or less, again, the same content on salt. What's the main difference in here? As you may see on the screen, Beef patty doesn't contain any fiber because animal products don't contain fiber, but on the contrary, the vegan patty provides you with 4.4 grams of fiber. So another fact on plant-based is that plant foods don't contain cholesterol by default. So it's another difference that we have if we compare it to beef. And lastly, with that salad here on the bottom of the screen, we wanted to reinforce again the message of eating at least 5 servings of fruit and veggies per day. So you make sure that you add the right amount of vitamins, minerals, and fiber to your diet. So finally, and to close the loop, we would like to mention a fact regarding sustainability as well, and is that on average, meat-based meals have 14 times higher environmental impact than vegan meals. Following with that, sustainability matters to over 90% of consumers in the US. So what else can you do to help customers find sustainable options? Already back in 2020, 57% of consumers in the European Union wanted sustainability information to be compulsory on food labels. Nowadays, some businesses are giving guests the sustainability data they need to make informed choices. And in the US, as you can see on the screen, it was shown that both high climate impact and low climate impact labels on the menus encouraged guests to choose less carbon-intensive choices. So the best way to promote sustainability efforts may be calling them out on your menus or on site. While there's no currently a standard way to share this kind of information, several canteens or big chains have already started experimenting with these sustainability or environmental footprint labels on their menus. And here on the screen, you can see a few examples. However, regulations may require more transparency on the menu soon. So if you're interested in trying this, you should consider partnering with a third-party organization to make sure that the information on the menus is, of course, accurate and substantiated.
We've seen how important these issues are, and we know that they matter to your guests too. So how can you communicate the actions that you're taking? Try the following tips to promote health and sustainability efforts made and attract new consumers. Position plant-based proteins as a valuable option and not as a compromise. Secondly, draw attention to the healthy, sustainable foods and beverages on your menu using icons to help guests find them. Third, add plant-based protein options to familiar dishes. Number 4 tip, offer multiple portion sizes along with a call to help us reduce food waste. Fifth, promote a meatless day to encourage people to try something new and attract vegetarian dishes and vegetarian diners. And lastly, be creative and innovative with plant-based beverages. We've also put together some frequently asked questions that you could receive. So hopefully these will help you answer your customers and be prepared for conversations and discussions that you might have with them.
Let's go with the first one. So are plant-based diets healthy compared to traditional diets? Before answering, I wanted to hear about you. So let's go with the last poll, Ayla, if possible. Thank you. So what are your thoughts in here? You have 4 answers. Yes, no, it depends, or I don't know. We will give you a couple of minutes as well so you can answer. Five seconds, and we end the poll. No pressure. Okay, let's end it. Most of you already replied. So there's a split between yes and it depends, which makes me happy because both are related actually to the real answer. And there's only one person who thought that they are not healthy. So let me come back here. Okay. So yeah, actually, it depends. If plant-based diets are appropriately planned, they can, of course, be healthy, nutritionally adequate, and may even provide health benefits. And actually, studies suggest that plant-based diets can benefit both health and the environment when compared to a typical Western diet. However, as you all also saw, they are not healthy by default, so it's all about balance.
Another question that you might face or come across is, will focusing on health and sustainability take away from your ability to deliver a great dining experience? It doesn't have to, because armed with your knowledge, creativity, and all the flavors of the plant world, you can still deliver incredible tastes and textures that will have your guests asking for more. Another often asked question, if I may say, is, will plant-based options cannibalize your traditional menu? And the answer is that no. It may even, in fact, increase your sales because you can keep offering the dishes that your regular customers love while adding others that will draw in new customers and attract larger bookings with diverse needs. So it could basically give you new customers.
Okay, so now, is organic or locally raised meat just as sustainable as plant-based alternatives? So usually not. It's true that eating meat from nearby farms can reduce, of course, greenhouse gases because it doesn't have to be transported as far. However, for most food products, transportation accounts for less than 10% of the total GHG emitted during the whole supply chain process. So to improve sustainability, farms can, of course, follow regenerative practices, and buyers can opt for local and organic versions of animal products. So it will help reduce the carbon impact of this food. Nevertheless, switching to plant-based foods is usually a more effective way of improving sustainability.
Another one, why do plant-based alternatives often cost more than traditional meat and dairy products? At the moment, plant-based protein is not produced on a large enough scale to compete with the price of meat, which is exceptionally low and often supported by subsidies. However, the price gap is much smaller for developed categories like milk and butter. As production scales up to meet the growing demand, they could reach price parity with conventional proteins. But remember that we've seen that many guests would pay more for sustainable plant-based options in the meantime.
Okay, so we hope that this edition has given you some food for thought and shown you how effective plant-based options can be in meeting both health and sustainability challenges. So thank you for the time and for being part of the solution altogether. So now you may be wondering, how can I get this valuable content that you just shared? So here, we just wanted to point out that in our website, nestleprofessional.com, you can find all the available editions of NutriPro, which is our dedicated magazine for nutrition, and also about Planet Pro, which is dedicated to sustainability. So here on the left-hand side, you have some of the editions that you have on the website, and I think that we will have the link now in the chat box. And also on the right-hand side, you can see that we also provide you with some articles, which is like shorter and it's like a bite of information, so you don't get overwhelmed with the full magazine maybe, or if you want to share with your communities, if you want to read yourself, so you can also have the easiest, let's say, piece of our magazines in the articles. So please, if you use our content, I don't know, in LinkedIn, or if you share it, if you spread the word, please tag us at Nestle Professional in LinkedIn, and you can also use these hashtags to make it like trendy and go beyond these nutrition and sustainability topics and go to the next level. So that was it. Thank you very much. Now we will check if there are any questions on the chat box. So feel free to keep on writing in them the questions, because we have lots of time to answer. So we are going to start reading. First, could you share where you get the nutritional data from? I don't know to which part of the session you are referring to, Ono, but it comes from a Food USDA database. So it's the database official, like from the States. Just now mentioned about dietary menu. For main dishes, smaller portions for meat. Will this mean we increase vegetable portion? That's a very good question. Thanks, Nigel, sorry. Actually, what we see usually is that we don't eat the proper amount of veggies. So if you realize the half of your plate of the menu should be veggies, and usually what we face is that we eat lots of meat or lots of protein and lots of carbohydrates like pasta, rice, potato, but usually we forget about the veggies. So of course, one option is to make sure that, for example, if you have a restaurant, you could provide lots of veggies as a starter or as a main dish. That's one thing. But of course, it doesn't make sense if you do it to replace meat by veggies, because of course the nutritional profile is not the same. So meat or plant-based counterparts, let's say, they provide you with protein and probably with lots of calories, and in veggies we find lots of minerals and vitamins, but we don't have any protein almost. So it's not something that you can replace one to one, but of course it's always a good choice to increase the veggies on your plates or dishes. Yes. Could you please share the source for nutrition data and the source of environmental cost? Yes, of course, we will for sure share the magazine with you. On the last page, you will find all the sources that we've used, but just so you know, the environmental cost is taken from the Our World in Data website, which has some sources of information, and you can tweak and play with the different values. So maybe you were not interested in taking a look at those foods that we chose, but maybe you are interested in some others. So it's the information was taken from diverse countries, farms, so you can take a look. And of course, you can find everything. All what we have shared today has a source behind. So as soon as Ayla sends the PDF, you will be able to see the sources that we used in every section. Thank you. Let's see. Hello and good day. I would like to ask, what are the ways we can do to promote sustainability in pastry and bakery section? So actually, to promote sustainability, as Rohini mentioned, we should go for maybe having sustainability actions that you are taking, and maybe it's not even in your, I would say, like ingredients on the plates or dishes that you offer in your restaurant, but maybe it's more on recycling directly in your bar, or you are like using some plant-based milk alternatives. You are using, for example, half of milk to make a recipe and half of I don't know, soy milk. So that's something that you can also tell to your guests. And for example, if you offer coffee, you can also make a discount if they are using like refill max, if they bring their own cups from home. There's lots of small initiatives that you can do, even if you are not precisely focusing on the ingredients that you are using, but also I'm sure that in your place you're hitting some milestones that you can of course share with the community. And I can tell you that people, as we have seen all the insights, they are like really interested in knowing more about sustainability. So everything you do, even if it's waste management, if you are offering smaller portions, everything will please them, I'm sure. How can we let our guests embrace plant-based menu on their diets? So I think that we covered that actually within the session, right? Like you can just showcase the plant-based options. You should not add them as a sacrifice, for example, on the menu, but you need to position them in a, let's say, delicious or appealing way. So they make sure to choose them. And actually it would also help, of course, to combining both nutrition and sustainability. So if you choose that, I don't know, soy milk instead of regular milk, that will help your health because, for example, saturated fatty acids are lower, but also because the impact on soy on the environment is also lower. I don't know, Rohini, if you want to compliment.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, when you do get the PDF, there is a slide dedicated to this, and it's titled "Promote Your Efforts and Attract New Customers." And there you will have very specific tips on how you can basically achieve highlighting and promoting your efforts in this area. So there's really concrete tips there.
Thank you. So then we have another comment from Gilbert. Africa is the answer for the global sustainability issues. How researchers are not conducting research on the African continent when it's becoming to food as a solution for sustainability. I'm asking this due to some statistics you mentioned earlier are US, European Union, and UK. You're right. Let us know the African contribution, please. So, of course, Gilbert, thank you for your question. And actually, sustainability is important to all. So, as you may imagine, data is a bit more difficult to source from Africa. But of course, when we have it, we will deep dive into it, and we will check if there's something that we can definitely share with you, and maybe we can include some insights on the upcoming webinars. But thank you for the suggestion. I believe sustainability and plant-based food demand will increase within food discipline and respect towards food. Am I right? I'm not sure I understand the question. Sudeep, so if you want to type it in again, we will be happy to answer. How can I best evaluate the nutritional value and environmental cost of my menu? That's a very good question, and actually, that's something that yes, we covered a bit in the session today. But of course, as you saw, for example, in terms of environment, there's no consensus yet. So, in principle, as soon as you have a recipe, let's say that you could partner with a third party, and they could assess all the ingredients that that are part of that meal. And following that, they would do a process. It's called LCA, so it's a life cycle assessment. And from end to end, so from the farm, for example, to the plate, they will give a score to that menu or to that meal that you are offering. So that's one thing. And then in terms of nutrition, of course, it's only about products, but I'm sure that some similar things will come up soon for complete meals. I don't know if you're aware, I don't know from which country did you send us that message, but we have different schemes that you can find, for example, on the front of pack of some products. So of course, again, it's not about meals themselves or recipes, but still, if you realize there are some products that have in Europe, we have Nutri-Score, but in Australia, you have Health Star rating. In the UK, they have another system. Also in Chile, in Latin America. So we have different ways of knowing the nutritional value, at, like an overview at a global level of our products. So then, if you choose these products which have a positive, let's say, impact on nutrition, probably your final recipe will be okay. Of course, we cannot find these kind of schemes in fresh produce. So banana doesn't have any scheme, but that's something that will help you out. And I'm sure that soon we will have more information on nutrition and sustainability scores on menus altogether, because it will be definitely a very good tool for you in restaurants or operators, cafes, to give consistent information. And of course, as we mentioned, to make sure that it's substantiated. Do you have another course about healthy food in the future? Not planned yet, but of course, if we see that there's a lot of interest, we will think of a next edition or maybe a second part on that one.
Yeah, and I was going to say that there's also, if you follow the link if you go to nestleprofessional.com, we do have these NutriPro magazines that have a lot of curated content, expertly put together by colleagues who have really a lot of expertise in this field. You will really find a lot of good information on nutrition and sustainability that Nestle Professional is putting together for exactly this purpose. But keep your eyes peeled. When we have more content, we will, of course, share with you.
How do we replace animal proteins like amino acids from plant-based? Are the plant-based mock meats really good for our health? So thank you, Nilesh. That's a super good question. And actually, I don't know if to what extent you know about that, but it's true that animal proteins usually have a higher quality, let's say, protein. But it's true that we can find some high quality protein in food, in plants food, sorry. So for example, soy contains a good profile of amino acids. So the quality, it's very similar to the one we find in meat. However, it's true that there are some plant foods like wheat or rice, different plant foods that don't contain a very good profile of protein quality, but there's no problem on that one either, because you can also mix, let's say you can combine two kinds of different foods. Let's say, for example, pulses with cereals. So you make sure that this lack of amino acids that you had previously is solved now. So you can compensate each other's lack. So this is not an issue. But of course, I would recommend you to use mainly, for example, if you use a burger, just make sure that it contains some soy, because the protein quality of soy is very similar to the one that we have in meat.
And Anna, it's exactly for this reason that we use primarily soy in the plant-based range that we sell, right? The Garden Gourmet one.
Exactly. It's a combination of soy and wheat.
Yeah, and it's basically so that we can offer products that are that have a good quality protein in them.
Is it okay to serve more veggies on main course with meal? I guess you wanted to say meat, even after serving salad at first. So as we mentioned before, it doesn't matter if you offer just one complete dish or if you offer two plates, because that's cultural, I would say. So your biggest proportion should be always veggies. It doesn't matter if it's together with meal or if it's served first with a salad or not, but first you should focus on offering veggies, and then the second plate, or same but with proportions in a single plate, you should offer some protein. Let's say a quarter of a plate should be protein. It doesn't matter, but following, of course, this webinar, we will encourage you to serve plant-based, but you can serve meat, poultry, fish, plant-based meat alternatives, whatever replacement, even pulses, they also have protein. And then the other quarter should be provided by cereals. So you need carbohydrates, right? We need energy. So for that one, you could, for example, offer like rice or potato, sweet potato, quinoa, like lots of things. At the end, it doesn't matter the dish that you make at the end, but make sure that you keep these proportions, because it will help you achieve your dietary and health goals.
And in terms of whether it's okay to serve a main with veggies after a salad, the simple answer would be yes,
exactly.
Because you could still have a main dish that is entirely plant-based and still be very wholesome, very nutritious, very tasty.
Thank you. What is your view on use of dried powdered spices on meals? Does this affect the nutritional value, specifically in Indian cuisine? Thank you. That's very interesting. Actually, spices usually don't provide you with any calories, for example, any fat, any protein, because they are basically herbs. But it's very interesting in terms of vitamins and minerals. So, of course, Indian cuisine uses lots of spices, so it can have some effect. It depends on which spice here we're talking about, but for example, curry, it can be like anti-inflammatory, and I don't know, curcuma, it also has properties, ginger, turmeric, exactly. So you just need to make a bit of research. I'm sure that there are like lots of studies about that, but it doesn't contribute, let's say, in terms of calories or proteins or carbohydrates, which is what we covered today, but it does have some additional benefits. Yeah, it's like a boost of nutrients. Thank you for your wonderful input. Thank you very much. Thanks for clarification. To add to what we do, to add to that, do we have to use soy in bean form or through milk? Authentic soy sauce can provide same results. So, of course, soy is the base, let's say, to create further products, right? We can create tofu, or we can create burgers, or we can create soy sauce, soy milk. But of course, the percentage of that soy is not the same. So as you can imagine, in a soy milk, we will have maybe 2 to 10% of soy content. It's not the same if we have a burger, for example, in which we will have higher percentages of that soy. So definitely we don't add the same amount of soy or of protein if we use soy milk or if we eat a soy burger. Hi, may I ask how to create plant-based dish that can be easily accepted by public? Because normally people will have perception that plant-based food is not tasty. I think coming back again to what Rohini shared with you about communication and about how to sell your plant-based options in main dishes, in sides, in beverages, bestsellers, and so on. I think it's a matter of communication. Probably there's a lot of still of, let's say, we don't have a lot of information maybe yet about the taste of plant-based, right? So it can be as healthy and as tasty as a meat-based product. Just as a curiosity, just so you know, I am vegetarian after almost 7 years. And one day I gave my dad plant-based chicken, and he could not realize like it was not current chicken, you know. So at the end, it's all about using products. You need to make sure that you try them on first. So let's make sure that you offer things that you also like, because it's not about offering just soy milk, but then if you don't promote it, probably nobody will choose it rather than milk, because changes are, sometimes we are afraid of changes, even if we don't know if it can be as tasty or as healthy as a meat product. But yeah, I would say that you try and you check performance and you check tastes, because there are products in the market that are very, very good and very like similar, mimicking meat taste or fish taste or all these kind of counterparts. So I really encourage you to try them on, and then if you like it, if you like the result, then add them into your menu and make sure that you communicate and you promote that.
Yeah, and I think collectively we can all play a role here, you know, in the food service industry in terms of promoting, just embracing more plant-based in our diets, whether that is through meat alternatives or simply embracing more vegetables, more plants, swapping out the dairy for other types of alternatives. So together, I think we can see the needle moving already, and together we can continue to do that, to educate people to embrace more plant-based.
And let's go with the last question. Too much soy creates hormonal imbalance. Is it true? So thank you, Sudeb, for the question. And actually, that's I would say it's kind of a myth. And of course, first we need to come to the foundation, right? We need to eat everything like with the right proportion. It doesn't make any sense that you eat soy like in all your meals, like dozens of soy. But having said that, actually, there are results of recent studies that suggest that soy has either a beneficial or neutral effect on various health conditions. So this source of protein can be safely consumed several times a week and is likely to provide some health benefits, especially when it's eaten as a replacement or as an alternative of red and processed meat. So that's very important. Like, how are we eating soy and how much soy are we eating through the day? So it's not the same if we eat soy in all our meals, rather if we eat it like, I don't know, different times during the week. And of course, if we use it as a replacement of red and processed meat. So yeah, that's my answer and my views on that. So I think that's it. I am gonna stop sharing. Actually, we forgot to turn on our cameras. Sorry for that, but we are here again. So I'm very happy because we had lots of questions. I didn't expect that. So we really see that this is a topic that it's really interesting, not only for us but for all of you. And well, just in case you have further questions, we will have another session at 4 p.m. if you want to join again and to ask questions again. So I think that we can close the webinar. We don't have any other questions. So thank you again. Thank you very much for your time and for all the questions. It has been a pleasure being here with you.
And if you do want any more information, you can always reach out to us. We're also on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And you can also connect with us through our Nestle Professional handle. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Bye.